Alrighty. Well, thank you all so much for being here. I know several of us were able to get acquainted already, but the time is 2 p.m., so we're going to start our meeting. I want to be upfront and transparent with everyone here. So there is going to be a recording of this exchange. We are recording this. We're not going to be posting this to the website or to YouTube or anything like that, but this recording is going to allow us to facilitate the creation of a meeting summary, which we will then extend out to everyone on this call. Um, if you would like a copy of that recording, please reach out to me after the meeting, and I'd be happy to send you a link that will be able to be accessed through your email. Now, before we begin, I do want to touch on a few quick housekeeping items for today so we have the most productive meeting possible. So please make sure that you've joined the meeting with either your phone or your computer audio. Please do not do both. If you're struggling with anything technologically, please just send me either an email or a chat in Zoom, and I will help you troubleshoot that. At the end of the meeting, we're going to have an open forum Q&A. But if you'd like to ask a question or provide any feedback on anything throughout the meeting, you're more than welcome to do that as well. If you do want to ask a question or provide some feedback, please use the raise hand function at the bottom of the Zoom window, and we'll call on you. If you've joined by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. You can press *6 to unmute. Now we're going to start with some introductions, and then we're going to provide an update on the status of the remedial investigation, the feasibility study, and the human health risk assessment. And then we're going to hear a presentation about EPA's Superfund redevelopment program and some of the resources that y'all have access to as the project progresses. So with that, I'll go ahead and I'll start. So my name is Brandon Ingersoll. I'm the communications specialist here with CDPHE. I've been on the project for a little over a year. And with that, I'll go ahead and I'll toss the mic over to you, Kyle.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kyle Sandor. I am the project manager for the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment for the Central City Clear Creek site.
Okay, great. And I think we'll toss it over to EPA.
Sure. Hi. Oops, sorry. Go ahead.
Angela, you want to go first?
You got it. Go ahead, Ashlyn.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ashlyn Brooks. I'll be taking over for Valerie as a community involvement coordinator for EPA. I've been with the EPA for about 3 years now, but I transferred over from the Boston office. So it's a pleasure to meet all of you, and I'm excited to work with all of you.
All right, I'll jump in now, Ashlyn. Sorry about that. So hi, everybody. I'm Angela. And I think my name shows up as Zachman, but it was recently changed to Fowler, just as a side note. But I'm the project manager for the Central City Clear Creek site. And I think we have Fran on there as well.
Thanks, Angela. Hi, I'm Fran Costanzi. I'm one of 2 EPA Region 8 Superfund redevelopment coordinators, and I'm very happy to be on the call.
And then, hi, just wanted to introduce myself really quick. I'm Valerie Dornbos. I'm the outgoing community involvement coordinator for the site.
Okay, great. Well, then I think we'll toss it to Kyle and Angela here for a brief update on the status of OU5.
Excellent. Thanks, Brandon. So yeah, we're just going to give a quick status update of where we're at with the activities for OU5 at the Central City Clear Creek site. OU5 is the area of the site where we're investigating residential mine waste. And as many of you are aware, we have been working on that effort for the last few years, having conducted a remedial investigation to collect data for the new operable unit and working on finalizing reporting on that effort. Some of you on the call may be aware that we were targeting finalizing that reporting, the remedial investigation feasibility study report in fall of 2024. Obviously, that has not happened yet, and I wanted to give you a little bit of background as to why we didn't meet that target. So as part of the process to finalize this type of reporting, we engage with EPA headquarters and management to have them review, the work that has been conducted and the proposed alternatives that are developed as part of our feasibility study. As we were going through that process, several technical and process concerns were identified and highlighted at that time. And what that resulted in was a kind of a pause in the finalization of the remedial investigation and feasibility study reports. Based on the feedback that we received, there were a few sticking points that needed to be worked through. And so what the CDPHE and EPA team ended up doing was putting together a group of both technical and management level staff. And we began having weekly meetings to work through those sticking points. And so those weekly meetings started late fall of last year and continued up until about a week or two ago. I'm happy to say that we think at this point we've worked through all of those sticking points that were raised in fall of 2024 and have worked to communicate those to the consultant working on drafting these reports that the state has hired. Unfortunately, what that meant in terms of the development of those reports is that there were I would call them moderate changes that were needed to be made to the remedial investigation report and the human health risk assessment. That's a addendum to that report. Those changes have already been made, and the agencies have reviewed a draft final version of the RI and the HHRA and provided that feedback to our consultant. But it required a much more substantial rewrite of the feasibility study, which is currently ongoing. That report is currently being rewritten by our selected consultant, and we have not had a chance to review those changes yet. In terms of what that means for future timelines, we don't believe that field work is going to be possible for this season. So the 2025 year, we right now are targeting taking our first remedial actions next year, beginning spring of 2026. And part of that has to do with the way that this process works. Essentially, what we need to do is finalize the RIFS reports. That will allow us to issue what's called the proposed plan, which some of you may have heard us talk about in previous meetings. The proposed plan is where we highlight all the cleanup alternatives that were developed and highlight the ones that were selected as being appropriate for this site. And then once the proposed plan has been issued for public comment, and we're then able to move forward with the record of decision, or in this case, we're going to be calling it an interim record of decision for the cleanup work. So the goal is to have both the proposed plan and the record of decision finalized this year. And so we are set up and ready to do the cleanup work beginning 2026. Again, all that timeline that I kind of just talked through is contingent on the finalization of the remedial investigation and feasibility study reports. And so we'll have a better sense of if those timelines are going to be met once those reports are finalized. Angela, that's what I had prepared to brief. Feel free to let us know if I missed anything or if there's anything else you'd like to add.
No, thanks, Kyle. I think you covered it really well. I think we got it.
Awesome. And I know that Brandon had mentioned that we'll have some time for questions at the end of our meeting today, but wanted to open the floor now to see if there's any questions that we can answer before we move into kind of the next part of this meeting. And looks like we have a few. Brandon, if you want to help.
Yeah, absolutely. Sandy, we'll go ahead and we'll start with you.
Hi. Yeah, so I'm one of the Gilpin County Commissioners. So I'm wondering with this change and delay, what's your public messaging plan? Because I know there are people following and looking forward to being part of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, overall, our message is, we want to make sure that these cleanups are done in a way that's protective of human health and the environment while also preserving the funding that we have available for the project. And one of the concerns that we worked through as part of those weekly interagency calls was the possibility of doing these initial cleanups and then having to go back and do additional cleanup down the line. And that remobilization can oftentimes be very costly. And so that was one of the things that we were hoping to avoid. And I think that we're going to be able to through the conversations that we've had.
And Sandy, do you have any follow-ups before I move on to our next feedback?
Yeah, so now you're telling us that, but I guess my question is, how are you going to get that? What's the message that you're going to send out to the world? Because we do
Right.
people watching and trying to keep up.
Certainly. And some of the feedback that we had received, when we were having public meetings at the end of last year was the fact that we were having meetings having not finalized some of that RIFS reporting. And so, our goal is to have, reestablish those public meetings as we're getting closer to finalizing the reporting. But not making any commitments until we're more certain that we're going to have those reports finalized and we can kind of have that conversation with the community.
Okay, and then we will move to Rebecca.
Hi, do you have the money on hand for the remediation? Is it in the state coffers, or will you be hoping that the current administration will release the money when you're ready to use it?
That's a great question. We are very fortunate at this site to have what we call settlement dollars. And so before my time at this site, there was a national settlement with a potential responsible party. And it was identified that some of their impacts were associated with the Central City Clear Creek site. And so as a part of that national settlement, our site received approximately $30 million for different site activities. And so we still have access to a majority of those settlement dollars that we'll be able to use for this cleanup work. That being said, we anticipate the work in OU5 to fully spend those settlement dollars, and we'll need additional money on top of that. And when we get to that stage, then we will have to follow the Superfund process of getting federal dollars to finish the work. So I guess the short answer is we have some money now to start, but to finish the project, we'll need to work with through that federal process.
And then second part of the question is EPA threatened by staff cuts?
I'm gonna defer that to my EPA counterpart.
Oh, right.
Yeah, sorry. And I did want to add to Kyle's statement about funding too. So as far as the amount that we currently have to use specifically for Central City Clear Creek, that will take us years into the future. So we're like, we're assuming that will be, beyond this administration. But to answer your question, we at EPA have not received here, at least at Region 8 in the Superfund department, we have not received any notification of any staff cuts or anything like that. So we're all operating forward and loving to be with the group. So
Okay, good luck. Thank you.
thank you.
All right, and George, we'll go ahead and we'll move to you.
Yeah, thank you. And really appreciate the question about future funding. I want to start there. I want to make sure. So in this, does the settlement agreement itself bind that $30 million to this site? Or is that subject to change? Like if somebody wanted to spend that $30 million somewhere else, could they?
My understanding is it is bound to the site.
That's correct. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it has to be spent on Central City Clear Creek.
Okay, thank you. And then just a quick comment. You've heard from us a number of times a desire to see the scope of the project match the quantity of available funding. It sounds like that's not what's happening right now, so I just want to reiterate that. And I want to ask basically the same question about state funding. State is facing a $1.5 billion general fund shortfall. Does the state anticipate being able to dedicate the kind of resources you've been able to historically to this?
Yeah, we do. I know in our group, we are currently planning for future funding for our site projects and are working with the different legislative liaisons to make sure that we can secure long-term funding for our projects. Typically the way that these Superfund response actions work is the state has a 10% cost share. So the state in this case would be responsible for 10% of the cleanup cost after we spend through the settlement dollars that we have. While it's not an insignificant amount of money, it's not the same amount of money that the feds would be contributing towards this project.
Okay, thank you. And I say all of that about future resources, and I just want to acknowledge it. It doesn't seem like the project has been moving at a pace that's acceptable. I'm gonna try to just be more blunt. Like we need this to move faster. We need more resources. I don't know if that's a conversation with the state or with the feds or both, but we can't continue at the pace we've been at. Is there a plan to accelerate progress?
Not beyond what I talked about earlier in the meeting. Essentially, we have the process that we have to follow, and we have to make sure that we get the RIFS finalized. You move through the proposed plan and the IROD. Short of us finalizing those reports, say tomorrow, there's not a lot that we could do to speed up where we're at right now. So there is no plans to bring, I guess if you're asking to bring additional staff or anything like that to the project, that's not currently in the works.
Okay, thank you. And then just to make sure I understand, so you're talking about an interim rod.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, the idea was that you'll do an interim rod, you'll start some early work. And then there was a conversation about feedback. I'm just trying to put all these together. Are basically we going to see the IROD have a bigger scope than y'all imagined? Is that
No, not a bigger scope. We want to make sure that we are addressing properties once. And so that's a lot of what the conversations that we've been having over the last few months is how can we conduct these early actions in a way where we wouldn't have to remobilize to a project or to a property. And in order to do that, we're being a little bit more conservative in our approach for these initial cleanups. with the potential for the final remedies to not have to be as protective. We have a little bit more data that needs to be collected. The big one is a background soil investigation for the entire Clear Creek watershed that'll allow us to make some of those less conservative assumptions for our final cleanups. But that's a lot of what we've been talking about internally.
Okay, thank you. Last comment. It would be helpful to me if you all were able to put on paper sort of beyond the interim rod, like what is your timeline for when like you're done?
Mm-hmm.
And to yeah, I'll just leave that there. And then for you all to hit that would be awesome.
Yeah, no, we definitely appreciate that. The one thing I want to add is one of the challenges of this project in particular is our initial sampling and characterization efforts looked at just a little over 90 waste piles, and we know that there's other piles that we haven't sampled and characterized throughout the watershed. So while we have a good grasp on the ones that we have collected data for, we do anticipate throughout the final cleanup process having to sample and characterize properties that we haven't previously looked at. During our initial scoping of this project, our consultant identified potentially 500 locations where these potential impacts could be. So we have data for 90 of that potential 500. At the end of the day, we're not entirely sure how many piles and how many properties we're ultimately going to address. And that's largely going to inform when we're done with this work, if that makes sense.
Okay, great discussion, great questions here. Jody, we'll move to you here before we get into our Superfund redevelopment program presentation. Oh, sorry, Jody, your audio is not we're not picking up any of your microphone there.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, now we can.
Okay. That was part of my question that George asked. Also, there's the 90 sites, and then at one of the meetings, you guys asked if there was people that wanted to volunteer, if they thought maybe that they had some mine tailings that they wanted to get tested. Would that be part of the 500, or are you expecting more people? Did you get more people to sign up for that, or are people still kind of shy?
So we haven't released an official mechanism for folks to sign up for that additional work. That'll be part of our final cleanup and the final process. That being said, we have asked folks if they are interested and haven't had their properties sampled or characterized by our initial efforts to reach out to us. So we've been keeping a track of those requests and those interactions, but we'll be releasing something more official once we move to the final phase of the cleanup.
Okay, thank you.
Just under the buzzer here. Yes, Sandy, go ahead.
I was waiting to see if someone else might ask this. I also want to just respond to your response to Commissioner Marlin's question. Our public health and our commissioners are the direct communication with our residents. And I think that although you're saying that you are being conservative, it is resulting in delays. And I think that the public are going to consider that as stalling, just so you know. But my actual question is, you said that you made significant changes to the human health risk report. Can you tell us if that's increases or decreases in human health risks, or give us a little bit of information about what that means?
Yeah, so just to clarify, we made moderate changes to the remedial investigation and the human health risk assessment. The substantial rewrites were to the feasibility study. And so the changes that we made to the human health risk assessment were pretty technical and had to do with a lot of the conversation was circled around, do we use default assumptions in some of the modeling for risk at the site, or can we use site specific data when we have it? And so it was a lot of those in the weeds, technical decisions regarding risk. Ultimately, it didn't lead to us excluding properties from being potentially cleaned up. If anything, it brought more of them into the fold based on the decisions that were made.
Okay, great. And folks, if any other questions or anything come up, either during the Q&A later on or after the meeting, you can always extend those to us. Happy to have one-on-one meetings to discuss anything in further clarity or detail with y'all. But in the interest of time, I want to make sure that Alyssa and her team have the opportunity to go through all of their content with y'all and to showcase some of the resources you're going to have access to. So Elisa, I will go ahead and turn it over to you. You should have permissions to share. Yep, great.
Great, thank you. So again, good afternoon. Elisa with Skio, and also have my colleague Tiara on the line. And we are a contractor under EPA's Superfund redevelopment program. And so also, Fran, please chime in at any point as we're going through this information. So this is an opportunity for us to share a little bit about EPA's Superfund redevelopment program and the types of assistance that are available in terms of aligning that assistance with the community's goals and needs, and get into some of the next steps related to the assistance that's available related to this site. So just to get started, EPA's Superfund redevelopment program is really an opportunity to help communities with Superfund sites return land back to safe and productive use. And it's an opportunity to really think about what are the barriers or issues to redevelopment, and what are some of the tools that can help support communities return sites to use. Granted, this site is complex, it's large with multiple localities, and so there may be a range of different topics or issues or opportunities that the various localities are interested in. And so while EPA does not own sites or control local land use decisions, the Superfund redevelopment program is really an opportunity to help return these sites back to productive use. And it's an important, just as it's important for communities, it's also an important part of EPA's mission to see these sites back into productive use. And so there are a range of different types of technical assistance that come under EPA's Superfund redevelopment program, and this can really be tailored to the community's needs. And so again, Skio is a contractor for EPA under the Superfund redevelopment program. And I know you all had some questions about the settlement funding. This support is provided from headquarters to the communities. So this is a different type of support than the cleanup funding that you all were talking about earlier. So I'm just going to talk quickly about the different types of support. So again, there are a range of types of technical assistance that can be available. We're starting with a situation assessment. I'll talk about that in a second. But the idea with this is to be able to better understand what types of support could be the most helpful. So I can start with just some information gathering to understand what some of the sticking points are, to broader sort of reuse planning, which could be as broad as like developing future use scenarios and public workshops, or even something much more specific to developing a fact sheet for prospective purchasers that are buying, properties within a Superfund site. So that's just a range of the different types of assistance that could be available. And so as a starting point, we're starting with a situation assessment. And so this is really an opportunity to work with all of you, representatives from each of the localities, to better understand what the goals, your goals, or what local initiatives might be in play that could change land use. If there's any sticking points, I know just talking to the site team, there have been questions around liability and if the properties change ownership. So those are some of the things that we can talk to you all in more detail. And by doing this initial situation assessment, we'll have a better sense of what the needs are and then what types of technical assistance might be available. And so here on the screen is just an example of another reuse situation assessment that the Superfund redevelopment program did for a mining site down in Mineral County at the Nelson Tunnel site. And by talking to those local government representatives and key stakeholders, there was a real need to stabilize some of the mining structures that are part of that town, Creed's really sort of their local sort of recreation economy, and being able to align some opportunities related to those specific needs. So that's a situation assessment. We'll circle back to that in a second, since that's what we're going to be, where we're going to be starting. The other types of assistance, just quickly, just so you kind of have a sense of the range of support. Another is a reuse assessment. This is really working to identify what the reasonably anticipated future land uses are, which could be like industrial, commercial, residential, for specific areas of the site that can help inform the remedial process. This is really starting to look at, you were talking about the human health risk assessment and an RIFS, the remedial investigation feasibility study, to where you would get into an interim ROD, doing a reuse assessment to look at aligning what the anticipated future use is, can help ensure that any remedial decisions, any cleanup decisions can be aligned to the extent possible. I mentioned again earlier, this can also, if there was the need to, some communities want to be able to work with community members to really think about what a site could look like in the future. And so this is a kind of a broader, more expansive effort of doing like a workshop or developing scenarios. Again, this is just to give you a flavor of the types of assistance that might be available. Another is just different communication tools. So there's like fact sheets about the top 10 questions to ask when buying a Superfund site, to maybe a development profile that looks at what we know about that particular site and the potential assets, or how it could be redeveloped, or some of the incentives for redeveloping that area. And then maybe what folks will need to know in terms of how to do that safely, that's consistent with the remedy. And then on the far side of the screen, this was another example of a communication tool that was very tailored to a specific situation for a site in Montana that part of the site was going to be delisted or removed from the national priorities list, and some specific information related to some frequently asked questions about that site. So this was really just to give you a range of the different types of technical assistance that might be a good fit for you all, but really just the opportunity to start with the situation assessment. I think Brandon's been in touch with most of you in terms of setting up an opportunity to talk in more detail one-on-one with you all to better understand what your questions are, what your needs are related to future use in context of a Superfund site. And so that site visit is scheduled for the week of April 20th. And some of you have already signed up, and we'll look at that in a second. But there's an opportunity if you would like to meet in person while we're in town. We can talk about that. And then if not during that week, we can also set up times to meet with you all virtually, kind of like you're doing
Lisa?
now. Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to, anticipating questions,
Mhm.
I wanted to just let folks know that we're getting this support directly from EPA headquarters. It's not coming out of the funds that Kyle and Angela talked about for site cleanup. So it's not taking away from that. This is something that we're currently able to provide that's from a different pot of money. So if you're worried about stretching the funds that's in the account that Kyle was talking about and Angela, it's not from that account. And I think I saw a flash on my screen, but I didn't catch the name. Somebody had a question that they want to ask us.
Yes, thank you, Fran. Yes, Jeffrey Knopfsinger. Yeah, Jeff, go ahead and unmute and ask your question or give your feedback.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, good. I believe this is the program that I spoke with Kyle and Angela about a couple months ago. I just want to make sure this is something that City of Central would be eligible for because we're very interested in coming up with a plan for reuse of our Quartz Hill. Just not sure, one, if we're eligible, and two, what the next steps would be if we are eligible.
Yeah, and, Elisa, do you want me to take that?
Sure.
So, yeah, the Superfund redevelopment program supports um, the Superfund sites, and that is a part of the Superfund site. So I think you would be. And what it is it's not money or a grant. It comes in support using Skio Solutions, which is the contractor that Elisa works for. So we would work through the site team with you in looking at Quartz Hill. Does that
Right.
answer your question?
Yeah,
Or
what do we need to do to sign up? We're ready.
you're signed up. This is the kickoff. So
Great.
this through working through Angela and Kyle, we'll work with you to see. I know there's a number of local governments involved in this site, so we're aware. And the reason why we're starting with the situation assessment that Elisa talked about is each we're expecting each locality will have slightly different needs and wants, and we'll be able to flesh that out through the situation assessment.
Great. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, were there any other questions just related to EPA Superfund redevelopment programs, the type of support?
Um, I'll defer to you, Sandy, since you're being respectful and using your hand.
Only because I could find it. So like within the communities, is that process separate but parallel to what you're talking about with the private properties? Or do they have to go through this whole process, meaning that it's not going to be immediate for them to get the okay to redevelopment that site? Can you just talk to that a little bit?
Um, yes. So if you're talking about a local property owner wanting to redevelop their property, Sandy, is that what you're asking about?
No, kind of the other way. So Central City, since they have Fort Hill and they're hot to do something with it, is that process being done separately than what you've been explaining about the delay and next year and more meetings and all that? Is that being done in parallel but separately to help the
So,
community use their locations?
Kyle, why don't I start and then you can. So the Superfund redevelopment program comes in and works with the site team kind of in parallel, uh, though it's often not quite as linear as that to some sites can be redeveloped sooner because we know enough about the property and we know what needs to get done. Other sites, you need to wait for the investigation that Kyle and Angela have been talking about to get to a remedy decision. So it'll depend on that specific parcel. Like if we already knew about a parcel and we knew enough about was it meeting protecting standards and we could move forward, then we could talk about other things like does it make sense to do an agreement so the liability potential is clear? So it really is a parcel by parcel thing. What we're talking about here, though, the whole Superfund redevelopment effort doesn't have to wait until there's a recorded decision. We can get started now, and in fact, getting started now, some of the things Elisa was talking about help inform the record of decision. So it's a little bit of back and forth. So, Sandy, if I've confused you or not answered your question, please try again.
No, I think that addresses it. I just, we want to support our municipalities, to be able to get assessed, free up, and move on with their plans because, the commissioners work with our local communities and we know that they're looking at building housing or, things for workforce or something that'll help stimulate their economy. And so we want to support that. If there's anything we can do to help jumpstart or give any information. I guess I was just hearing earlier that it sounded like, besides more investigation and fine-tuning reports, that there's going to be a delay because of the desire to be very conservative and thorough.
Yeah, and the one thing I'll tag on to that is so the our OU5 operable unit 5 work is focused on these residential yard and waste pile cleanups, which are very specific, as Fran was saying, to a property by property basis. The tools and the information that SKIO and the Superfund redevelopment program is looking to bring to the site is more along the lines of general planning and community planning and less focused on private property redevelopment. And so while they're like these things are happening parallel, they are kind of separate separate work products.
And George, you've been waiting patiently there. You want to go ahead and unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, I'm curious, um is this an automatic process? Is this something that you all will be doing? Is it something that you want to hear from us, whether we want you here and how to engage? Like, just can you talk a little bit about that? I'm certainly not trying to tell you not to show up and do this work.
So there's a part of it that site teams should be doing, and that's the reuse assessment. And the reason why is we really should have an idea of is the property going to be used in the future for residential, commercial, industrial, because that helps guide what you're looking at for the future use scenarios in your risk assessment and in your decision document. Other than that, it's not a mandatory process, except we think that it really makes a lot of sense to not just be thinking about how to clean up a site, but how it's going to work in the future. So if you didn't want it, then we wouldn't do it. It's not something we would force on you. What I find, though, that it really is very helpful for people to, it really helps broaden the understanding of not only what the cleanup is going to be, but then how is it going to work in the future? And what are the potential restrictions if there's some waste left in place? How do you work with them? Also, if there's someone interested in a property and is there some sort of comfort letter or legal protections that we can add? Just having that dialogue, I think, really changes in a very positive way the whole process for everyone. And I find it often really helps move things along because people have a clearer vision of the future. but that's why we're here. If you have any concerns or want more information, we're happy to talk about it now.
And I was just going to add on a little bit more to that too, George, and thanks, Fran. But this getting SKIO involved to do this was kind of born out of some conversations that Kyle and I were having with some of the city's development people. So that's why we initiated this was to kind of help guide and answer the questions that they were having in a little bit more systematic, organized fashion. And SKIO can help out and give a lot more information than that I have because of their background. So with the redevelopment. So.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. I mean, I first off, yes, love to see support in this work. I want to be very clear about that. What I have going through my head is kind of, what do you need from us to have success here? And are you looking to do something that's region wide? Are you looking to do something that is specific to each of is it 7 or 8 jurisdictions involved?
I think that's why we're starting with the situation assessment, because every time we do this, it's different, and it really is guided by what the local needs are. So, what'll come out of the situation assessment will help us decide that. I'm guessing that there'll probably be some specific local needs or wants that could be addressed through this, or some things that people haven't thought of. We have a lot of examples of where it's worked successfully in other places, including other mining areas. So that may be helpful. But each one is specialized, and that's why we usually start with the situation assessment. I see Jody's hand is up.
Yeah, so this may be a question for down the road, but so do you have a place that, if you take the toxic waste, does it have to be processed somewhere else? Like, do you need a big piece of property somewhere that you're going to take it and process it, or how does that work?
That's one of the things that gets looked at in the process that Kyle and Angela were talking about.
Yeah, and I can speak to that really quickly, not to get us off track. We do currently have one site-wide repository for the site. We have utilized its capacity to nearly its full extent. So one of the things that we're going to be looking at as part of our cleanup activities is both an expansion to our current facility and then potentially developing a second repository location where we can bring this material and ultimately cap it and make sure that it's safe and protective. But that's part of the Superfund cleanup activities and not so much associated with this redevelopment planning.
Maybe I can chime in with some next steps related to conducting the reuse situation assessment. And so as I mentioned, there are opportunities in mid-April where we can set up meetings in person. And this is a recap of where we are currently. Brandon has been reaching out to help get these meetings scheduled. And so we have some additional openings if folks want to take this opportunity that week to meet in person with us. There's some additional slots that are still available that week. We can also look at meeting virtually if a phone call would be easier for folks. But each of these meetings is an opportunity to hear in more detail from each of the locality their specific sort of questions or needs, issues related to reuse and redevelopment related to the site, and then that gives us better information to be able to identify what technical assistance might be the best fit. while you all are taking that in preparation for each of these meetings, we would coordinate ahead of time to determine where best to meet. Would we just meet in person? Or would you like to take us around and show us some of the key areas? We can really work with each locality to really design the meeting so it's the best use of your time, and making sure we sort of format that in a way based on your needs. And we would send some questions and prompts ahead of time to help structure that time. I'll pause there. Sorry, I think that Brandon, I tried to do your job. I'm sorry. I saw a hand come up. I'll pause.
No, you're fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Fluid and organic. Yeah, go ahead. But yeah, Rebecca, go ahead.
So is this like a town hall type meeting, or is this actually a site visit?
It is a site visit in terms that we will be on site, and the idea is starting with representatives from like you all from the localities. It wasn't intended to be a public meeting. It was really an opportunity to meet with representatives from each of the local governments to hear from them in terms of what what you're dealing with in terms of redevelopment, what questions you might have, where are there issues.
Okay. So you won't be showing us mill tailings piles and saying this one has a priority, this is the one we're going to clean up first or anything. It would be
No.
sitting down with us in our offices.
Exactly. And
All
it
right.
could be like, we hear that you've seen a boom in people moving to the area because they telework, and we're having we need more area for workforce housing, and we're not sure where that should go. I'm just making stuff up. Are there where, we're landlocked and we don't have enough area, flat areas to redevelop. So which of these areas might be cleaned up sooner, or what, I'm just making things up, but it's really an opportunity to hear what is sort of unique to each locality in terms of, and where the Superfund site, whether it's like real or perceived stigma is an issue, or what questions you're getting from community members in terms of redevelopment, or people moving to the area and needing more information, tools about understanding what it means to in this area related to the Superfund site.
Okay, so we should have our for the one here in Clear Creek County, we should make sure we have our representatives from the municipalities meeting in Idaho Springs on the 22nd.
Brandon, I'm going to turn that to you.
Yeah, give me just a moment here. I'm pulling up my lists here. So, and forgive me, Rebecca, which date did you?
I'm just looking at the calendar up on the screen right now.
Mhm. Well, so based on what I already have scheduled here, we have meetings on the books with the community development directors or coordinators, planners, or associated folks for each of these areas here. Now, in terms of, because I know that you just reached out looking to schedule a meeting there as well. We were kind of envisioning that as you would have like a comprehensive overview, because those municipalities have already directly reached out to us. So we're going to be having individualized meetings with those folks already. So in terms of the meeting that you and I were kind of back channeling about here, it would be, we were envisioning those as more comprehensive, and like you'd be looking at the entirety of the county that you represent.
And Brandon, Sandy put in the chat to everyone, there's some restrictions on how many commissioners can be present without it being an open public meeting
Right.
Yes. So
that
yeah,
have to be considered.
yeah, we've considered the Sunshine Act, and that's why for any sort of meetings that would have a commissioner, we would be interested in having either one representative from the board come engage in that meeting and then be able to report back, or have a surrogate go in your stead to then report back to your board. That way we don't have any kind of conflicts with the Sunshine Act.
Okay, so when I'm looking at the calendar that's on the screen right now, that is for on the 22nd, you're already meeting with the mayor of Idaho Springs, for example.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
exactly. Sorry. Yeah, I think I misunderstood your previous question. Yes, so these are
So
already yeah, scheduled with those municipalities. Correct.
okay. So what are your open times for meeting with a commissioner or our representative?
So the open times, and forgive me, Elisa here, 4:21 in the morning is also has been booked up. So we have anytime on Wednesday the 23rd, and then anytime before noon on the 24th. Currently, that's what we have available for in person. As Elisa said, if those times don't work, we can certainly figure out a virtual alternative as well, either a following week or sometime near there as well.
No, happy to sit down with you. So why don't we do put down Clear Creek County Wednesday the 23rd. What time do you want to get up there? If you come up before 9, you'll avoid the Floyd Hill blasting.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Well, we can certainly do, how about a 9 to 12 p.m. slot then? And then we'll just get up there around then.
Very
Rebecca,
good.
um,
Okay.
given
Yes,
that
George?
given that only one of us is able to attend, shall we discuss who's going to attend and when we're available tomorrow morning and get back to them?
That would be fine.
Okay, great. Once you guys have ironed that out, please just shoot me an email and then I'll get a calendar invitation on there and I'll get everybody's calendars blocked off. Great. We minimized at least 7 back and forth emails. That's great. I'm glad we were able to do that right. Okay. Any other follow-up questions, comments, feedback, anything like that? We have a few minutes here. Hearing none, I do just want to reiterate, if any kind of questions, concerns, feedback, anything like that come up, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or anyone else on the site team. We're always happy to work through anything with you, answer any questions, have one-on-one meetings, and to just, keep this dialogue going. I do just want to flag for everybody while I have you all here, going on that note of trying to minimize emails. As we discussed last year, so I was going to schedule the next semi-annual meeting for this group. Last year, we decided on the fourth Monday in August from 11 to 12. I'm going to be sending out calendar invitations for that. If that time does not work for you, please let me know now, or not right this moment. But please let me know and I can figure out an alternative here. I just want to give everyone on the call the opportunity to work through their schedules so we can get everybody involved here. So, but with that, I do want to thank everybody for taking time out of your busy schedules. I really do appreciate it. I know everybody on the site team does as well. And yeah, like I said, feel free to just reach out and stay in contact here, and we'll definitely have more meetings in the works, and we'll be meeting some of y'all here in person here in the next month.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.